Hey everyone, it's Bill here again, and today I'm going to try to answer a question that's come in from Tim Van Pelt. Now, Tim posted this on one of my tutorials about developing your left hand when you're improvising on the piano, and this is what he had to say. What do you do with your left hand if you're playing in a band with bass and lead guitar? It would be really helpful if you could make some tutorials on how to play piano with other musicians. So what I've done for you is put together a 16-bar chord progression. Okay, it's in the key of G major, it's in 4/4 time, it looks a little bit like this, and if you want to download that chord progression to use for yourself, just check out the link in the description text underneath this video, providing of course you're watching on the YouTube watch page, whether that's on mobile or desktop. What I'm going to do is just play through this improvisation 4 times in a fairly kind of standard pop piano way, and each time I'm going to layer in some extra instruments. So first time through I'm just going to play it solo, second time through I'll just add some drums, third time through will be drums and bass guitar, and in the fourth time through I'm going to add some other instruments, which I'll leave as a little bit of a surprise for now. I was going to do some lead guitar, but that was kind of getting a bit complicated at this end, not least because I'm not a very good guitarist. So you'll see what I've done there. What I want you to do is watch and listen. Look at how I change the way I'm improvising depending on how many or how few instruments I have behind me. Once we've watched and listened to the improvisation, I'll get it back up on screen and we'll kind of go through step by step the exact techniques that I was using. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here we are in the screencast window, and in a second I'll just talk through some of the stuff that I was doing there. Before I do, I just want to mention a couple of things about the musical context, okay, and in particular the tempo that I was playing at. I chose this particular style, which is a fairly sort of general rock piano, pop piano kind of style, for a particular reason. at this speed, which is kind of faster than a ballad but slower than a fast rock song, you get into a kind of risky tempo area where it's very easy to let things wallow. Yeah, you have to keep things moving, but because there isn't a really fast pulse, it's quite difficult to do that without getting bogged down. The tempo setting here was 95 beats per minute. That was the click track in my ear as I was playing, and you have to work quite hard to keep things moving, yeah, without doing too much and getting over busy and over fancy and risk making lots of mistakes. So the first time through, you'll see I'm making quite big efforts to keep things moving, yeah. When the drums come in, second time through, that pressure is kind of off, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just go from the start and have a look at what's going on. Okay, quite a lot of movement, arpeggio in the left there, a little bit of movement again. Again, what I'm trying to do is keep this sense of forward motion without overdoing it, okay? That's really important and it's really quite tricky. Here we go. Another arpeggio. Quite a lot of movement in the left there, rocking against what's happening in the right to create that sense of movement. The other thing I'm doing here is putting in a lot of bass because I don't have a bass player behind me at the moment. Now, I could here not bother with very much bass at all and play something quite light and delicate up at the top and with a solo, or you know, in the middle and in octaves above middle C. With a solo piano that would sound absolutely fine, but I'm after a kind of big epic sound here. It needs bass. There is no bass guitar at the moment, so I'm having to provide it. So right now my left hand is working quite hard, yeah, because it's working with the right to create the sense of forward motion and it's putting in the bass. I played 4 times through and this was the hardest, okay, because it was in this time through that I was having to think hardest about all these different tasks that I was having to do. Let's keep going. Okay, that's the end of the first time through. Drums about to come in. Okay, and immediately the pressure's off, or at least in one respect, which is the sense of forward movement, because the drums are now there doing it for me. So I don't have to move about as much. Let's do that again. Okay, I can relax a bit more. I'm still putting in plenty of bass because I don't yet have a bass behind me. Okay, so a little bit of movement in the left there, but less. You'll really notice it here. Okay, if you compare that section there, and it's kind of helpful here that little motif, the CBA, the CBA I just played, I think, every time. If you compare that section there with the drums, with the previous time through, you'll see I'm moving much less in my left hand. I don't have to move as much now because the drums are there backing me up. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, bit of a bass hit down there. Now the bass is coming in. Okay, and let's just pause there. Right away, pressure's off. My left hand no longer has to worry too much about neither of my hands have to worry too much about that sense of forward movement, and the left is now kind of absolved of its responsibility to establish the bass because we've got a bass guitar doing it for us. So that left hand is now much freer to be expressive and to work with the right to create more colour. Yeah. Also, interestingly, in this progression, I've got several chords where the inversion, where the bass note is specified like a G over B, yeah? The bass guitar is doing those, so I don't have to worry too much about getting those right every time on the piano. Generally I do, but a couple of times I didn't. I'm not focusing so much on playing the right bass note on the piano all the time. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, much more delicate. it's a strange thing, but I'm actually able to be quieter now. So when I was doing loads of bass stuff with the left, and then my right hand had to be relatively louder just to beat through that, yeah. But now I have a drummer and a bass section behind me, I can play much more delicately, strangely enough, and it will cut through as long as I'm higher up. Yeah, I need to keep my pitch range a bit higher, just so that it sails over the low tones, the low frequencies of the bass drum particularly, and the bass guitar. Okay, so I've actually managed to play something much more delicate and expressive here. Here we go. Okay, again, compare this section with the two previous ones. Much lighter, much more delicate. I could really go for it, but I wanted to show you the contrast you can do there with the rhythm section behind you. Okay, horns coming up. Okay, really noticeable. As soon as the horns come in, suddenly I'm doing absolutely nothing. Yeah, very, very good reasons for this. The horns are now the stars of the show. Okay, rhythm section, instruments like the drums and the bass, they are supporting me. I'm the main event. Okay, because I'm producing the melody and the harmony or whatever. Now the horns are there, and because I'm occupying roughly the same kind of frequency space as them, I don't want to crowd them out. So I step back and stop doing anything for a few bars, for 8 bars. When things start to build to a climax at bar 9 of the progression this final time through, that's when I come back in. We'll watch that in a second. Here we go. For now, you just get to admire my knees. Yeah, sorry about that. It's really hot here today. Yeah, here we go. There's bar 8, and here we go. Okay, do you see the musical logic of what I did there? Yeah, I'd created space for the horns by coming off the keyboard altogether, but now, because we're moving to a climax, and you'll notice the drum groove in the background has changed. We've got this very splashy kind of 90s style, heavy kind of beating of the crash cymbal, and we're building to this climax, so I'm filling out more on the piano to back that up. But notice what I'm doing. You'll see that the chords I'm playing are really spaced out. Yeah, there's an important reason for that. So like this is a C chord, but I'm missing out the E. Yeah, there's one of the G chords, the G over B. I think I miss out the B. Let's just see if we can find that. Here we go. I'll explain why in a second. Here we go. There's the D chord. Okay, there's that G over B, but a G, that regular G chord, but I've missed out the B. And the reason for that is that I think although it is a G over B, G sus over B in the progression that B happens well down in the bass. To put in this B here would be to fight with the suspended note, the C, okay, which the horns have. So to keep things, to prevent that kind of conflict, I'm playing the chord in a very bare way without its third in it, and I'm doing that with the other chords in general. All through this section I'm playing the chords well spaced out, so I'm not generating loads and loads of overtones. I'm not fighting in that same pitch space that the horns are, rather I'm just kind of backing them up. Okay. There's other stuff that I've done there. So that horn part I've written to make the best, this is a really simple way of putting it, but to make the best use of the frequency range that it's sat in. Okay, so there shouldn't be loads of, well, there aren't any kind of overlapping horn lines excuse me, and things like that. I know quite a few of you are interested in stuff like this excuse me. Quite a few of you are interested in stuff like this, so I might make a little tutorial on how I made this stuff, how I put the horn part together, and how I assembled these tracks. But that's a subject for another day. For now, the important thing to remember here is that the more I have going on around me, the less I have to do on the piano. So when it's just solo piano, I am doing all the work. Okay, when drums come in, I don't have to worry so much about the forward push of the music. When the bass comes in, I don't have to worry about creating, filling in those bass frequencies. And then when the horns come in to do their particular thing, I just can step out of the way altogether. I don't want to fight with those guys. It's only when we come to a real climactic moment that I am, putting stuff in behind them. So if you're playing with other musicians, think about what's going on around you. Think about what they're doing and what you can do, what you need to do, how it might complement what they're doing, how they're supporting you, how you might fight, especially if you're doing something in the same sort of pitch region as a bunch of other instruments. Okay, so as usual, it comes down to listening, to thinking, to not being entirely focused just on the notes you're pressing, but thinking about the overall sound. So there we go. I hope that was useful. Tim, I hope I answered your question there. If you want to have a go at this for yourself, as I said, the chords are down there in the description text underneath this video. What I'm also going to do is put a link to the audio file. I'll alter it slightly. So the first 2 times through you've got drums, then drum and bass, and then the drums, bass and horn at the end, okay? Just so that you're not there without a click or without a beat or anything the first time through. If you've enjoyed this, please do give me a subscribe. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, check out my Facebook and my Twitter. Please support me on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Bill Hilton, the crowdfunding website. If you can spare $1 or $2 a month, that is really handy. If lots and lots of you just give a tiny amount of money, then it does kind of add up for me and allows me to free up time to make more tutorials. Finally, of course, please do check out my books, especially How to Really Play the Piano, the stuff your teacher never taught you, which kind of covers the basics of chords and improvisation and that kind of thing. You might also like, if you like this particular style, 7 Studies in Pop Piano, okay? You need to read a bit of music for both of those, okay? But especially in the early stages, you don't need to be a reader to a very sophisticated standard to get quite a lot out of them. So there we go. Questions, comments, anything I can help you with, just stick them in the comment thread underneath the video. And I'll see you again soon.